Hey there, welcome to DIY Comics FAQ. I'm GE Gallus and I'm here to answer all your questions about indie comics, graphic novels, webcomics, zines, self-publishing, storytelling, you name it. If you like my videos, don't forget to subscribe. Today I'm answering two questions from Zai at RY Comics on Twitter. They ask backing up websites for comics and how to get the stupid Twitter picture display to work. Very important. So let's start out with how to back up your webcomic. I know a lot of us were worried about saving our webcomics. You know, we work really hard on all of our comics, our graphic novels, and we don't want to lose anything. We don't want to lose our work because computers tend to die and crash and whatnot. So there are a lot of different options for backing up your webcomic. One option that I use myself is an external hard drive. You can get these in different sizes. I would recommend a 1 or 2 terabyte because those can take a lot of information. You can get them online on Amazon, Best Buy, wherever for around $40 to $70. Here is my external hard drive. It's pretty small. You just hook it into your laptop or computer with a USB cord. I believe this one's a 2 terabyte. My Passport for Mac, so you want to make sure that you're buying one that's compatible with either your Mac or your PC. There are a lot of different companies that make these and they're not too expensive. They last a number of years. I constantly back up whatever's on my computer, so I have this extra copy of everything in case my computer crashes or dies. Of course, this isn't foolproof. Something could go wrong with an external hard drive. I've had a number of these throughout the years, but it's nice to know that you have this backup copy of whatever's on your computer. So you might want to look into getting your hands on one of these yourself. There are so many different websites where you can create an account and get free space to save your comics or graphic novel or webcomic or whatever you want onto these websites. I looked into a bunch of different options. Some of these I use myself, but there are a ton of them out there, so I'm just going to start with some of the basics. So of course there is Dropbox. Most of you have heard of this. You can get 2 gigabytes of free space with the Dropbox account. That's not very big, but if you just want a place to save a few files, then Dropbox might be for you. Of course, there's a paid version of Dropbox as well. I believe that all of the different options I'm showing you in this episode have a paid version, but right now I'm just going to talk about what you can get for free. I myself have a Dropbox, but it's not very good for saving tons of webcomics or images. You run out of space pretty quickly. I tend to use Dropbox more to share different files with people, like an editor or that sort of thing. So Dropbox might not be the best option if you want a free account and don't want to have to pay for it. iCloud is another option. You get 5 gigabytes with a free account. That's a little bit better than Dropbox. I happen to pay a monthly amount for more space on iCloud because I happen to have an iPad and an iPhone and a MacBook, so everything kind of syncs up very easily with iCloud, so that's a good option. It doesn't cost very much to get a paid version of this, so this is a good option to look into, especially if you use Apple products. If you don't use Apple products, then you might want to look elsewhere. I also use Google Drive. Google Drive is a good option. 15 gigabytes isn't a bad size to get for free. What I really like about Google Drive is that you can create documents in it, and as you work on the documents, it saves as you write. So that's very different from something like Word, where you have to click the save button all the time. I just really like having the option that if I'm writing something in a document, that's maybe a graphic novel script or notes for a graphic novel, I know that if I'm connected to the internet, it's constantly being saved whenever I write something. And I also tend to back up some of my work onto Google Drive as well. I do not have a paid version of this, so this might be a good option to look into as well, especially if you happen to use Gmail, because I believe your Google Drive is connected to your Gmail account. Mediafire is another option. They give you 50 gigabytes of free space. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. I've used Mediafire in the past, but not recently. I think that this is a pretty good option if you're saving lots and lots of files, big files of comic book pages. So Mediafire might be a good option if you're trying to back up your webcomic. Mega also gives you 50 gigabytes, so that's a pretty generous size. I've had some experience with Mega downloading files over the years. You know, you get people sending you links via Mega. I've never had an account there myself, so I'm not too familiar with Mega in that way, but you might want to look into it. This might be a good option for backing up your comic, because 50 gigabytes is a pretty good size. So that's the same size as Mediafire. Mega and Mediafire are pretty comparable. I don't have any experience with pCloud. I've actually never heard of it until now, but doing my research on different websites you can use to back up your files, pCloud kind of stood out because they give you 2 terabytes of free space. That is a lot. That is the same amount as my external hard drive. So this might be a really great option, especially if you have like hundreds of comic book pages and hundreds of illustrations that you want to save. So this was the biggest amount for free that I was able to find. There might be other options out there. If you're not satisfied with the options I've given you in this episode, please just Google it, because there are so many different options and they all have different pros and cons to them. So do your research. I would definitely recommend doing a combination of all of these different things. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's why I have an iCloud account where I back everything up in addition to my external hard drive. So you probably want to have a few different options backing up your stuff, just in case something goes wrong with one of the backups. Then hopefully your other backup will be fine. Let's go to the second part of Zai's question. So how to get the stupid Twitter picture display to work. This, I think, is a bane for many people posting illustrations and comics on Twitter. You know, you post something and then Twitter kind of crops it and cuts off all of the important parts. So I think all of us have probably experienced this if you use Twitter. I just want to give a shout out to dev@coughing_ on Twitter, because they had great advice about this Twitter picture cropping issue. So I printed out Dev's tweet. You can see it says, "Dear Twitter artists, suffer no more with weird cropping. Here are Twitter's official image ratios." It's kind of hard to see the images on Dev's tweet, so I have redrawn them and I'll show them to you now. So if you're posting one image on Twitter, it has a 2:1 ratio. That means that, for instance, if you have an image that's 200 by 100 pixels, that should fit into this ratio, or something like 600 by 300 pixels, or something that's 2 inches by 1 inch. So hopefully you all know how ratios work. If you don't, then maybe Google it to help you. If you're posting 2 images to a tweet on Twitter, then those 2 images would have a 7:8 ratio. So an easy way to think about that is like 700 pixels by 800 pixels, or 7 inches by 8 inches. So this is the best ratio if you're going to post 2 pictures in one tweet. If you're going to do 3 images in one tweet, then the first image has a 7:8 ratio, and the other 2 images have 4:7 each. So an easy way to think about this is the first image is like a 700 by 800 pixel image, and the second and third images are a 400 by 700 image. I would just play around with these. It might be difficult to kind of figure this out at first. I know I'm terrible with numbers and math and things like that, so I really eyeball things most of the time. But I think that these ratios will be able to help anyone having trouble with posting images on Twitter. Here's the last one. Twitter only allows you to post 4 images in one tweet. I have no idea why, but that's what I've experienced. So if you're gonna do 4 images in one tweet, then each image should have a 2-to-1 ratio. So that's pretty easy to remember. So if it's 4, then 2:1, 2:1, 2:1, 2:1. So that's the same ratio for one image. So if you're gonna post only 1 image on a tweet, then 2:1 is also the ratio. If you don't feel like posting images on Twitter using these ratios, that is fine. Just expect that Twitter is going to crop it and you have no control over how it will be cropped. I noticed recently that if I post a image that has writing on the bottom of it, then Twitter will most likely crop it to the words. I like to tweet about whatever television series I'm watching. So I just finished watching The Sinner season 3, and I wanted to tweet an image from the show with my tweet saying that I was watching the finale, and the photograph had the 2 main characters and then it said The Sinner on the bottom. And of course Twitter, instead of automatically cropping it so you could see the 2 main characters' faces, it cut them off and only focused on the words "the sinner" at the bottom. So that kind of was an aha moment for me, because then I was like, okay, this is good to know when I'm posting illustrations that have words on them, especially, you know, comics are often illustrations with words. Even though Twitter tends to do these automatic crops, just remember that whenever you click on the image, it pulls up the full image. So I don't worry too much about how it's been cropped, because I know that people hopefully will take an extra second to click on the image so they'll be able to see the full thing. I hope the past few episodes have been helpful to Zai, and I hope that these episodes have been helpful to all of you out there as well. If you have questions about making comics, writing a script, drawing thumbnails, composition, anything about making comics, do not hesitate to ask me. I love receiving your questions, and I will definitely answer them in a future episode of DIY Comics FAQ. So if you have a question, please reply below, or you can always tweet me at GEGallas, that's GEGALLAS. Do you like my videos? Do you want to help support this channel? Please subscribe below. It's one easy click. It's free. You'll be helping to support this channel, and you'll get notified every time I post a new episode, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's all for now. See you next time.